Installing a whole house surge protector at a residence. I am not a licensed electrician, but I have a lot of knowledge and experience, and I'm going to show the way I installed a whole house surge protector and why I installed it. So when I bought this home, it had a electric company supplied surge protector mounted here on the outside. That is the best kind to have, but the problem is they charge a monthly fee for that. And so I had them take that out, and I put my own in that is no monthly fee, just a one-time fee. This one is supposed to be the best one. It's about $150, and I'm going to kind of skip around as I think of what I know about this and explain why I installed it. So the purpose of this is to protect all sensitive equipment in the house, such as the most important thing in my case would be mini split air conditioners, because these have digital inverters and have sensitive electronics and are expensive. Other things are such as refrigerators that have circuit boards. This one has a circuit board. This has a circuit board. That's an expensive stove, microwave, everything with a circuit board pretty much. Especially Samsung brand washers and dryers that are modern have circuit boards. Computer systems, entertainment centers, TVs, Wi-Fi routers, all that kind of stuff. Home security systems, and anything else. So you know that these power strips are often advertised as being surge protectors. Well, that's pretty much, they help some, but it's made in China junk. It's low quality because people want the lowest price and corporations want to make the biggest profit. So there's a battle between there why these are very poor for surge protection. So this one here is the best, other than the one that mounts on the outside. The whole idea is, the reason why the one on the outside is better, or slightly better, is because you want protection at the principal breaker as close to it as possible to protect all of this from surge, lightning surge, or any other source of power surge coming in your house. You want to have the surge protector breaker as close to the principal breaker as possible. So in my case, because I have to have the generator circuit breaker at the very bottom, it only leaves one more side here, and you can see here this is already the space is taken, because you want this mounted as close to this as possible so that the line is as short as feasible or possible. So in my case, I could have mounted it there in this space here, or on this side. Either side would be the same wire distance. I chose this side, and what I did also is, since this comes with a wire that's about 1 foot long or more at 14 gauge, there are some complaints that wire is too short, because sometimes people want to mount it down here and then they have to go all the way up and go around some stuff to get to the surge protector breaker. And a lot of people don't understand the surge protector breaker does have to be mounted on it doesn't have to be, should be mounted as close to principal main breaker as possible. That is because you want the surge protector to protect all of the things away between it and the outside power coming in. The electric company power coming in first comes through the principal breaker, and then if the surge protector is close to this, it will operate more efficiently as opposed to being way up here. It'll still work way up here. It'll even work in a sub panel. For example, over here is my sub panel. I got a lot going on for just one residence. So, but that would not protect if the surge protector breaker is in the sub panel. I don't know exactly how much it would protect all this. I think it will protect it some, but not very well compared to being right here. So being down here, it will protect everything from here to the sub panel. So this protects all, including this sub panel. So normally I would want this 100 amp breaker to be down here as low as possible. You want the lower amperage breakers down close to the principal normally, except in this one case, or these two cases. In this case, you want generator at the bottom close to principal and surge protector close to principal. What I did for ultimate efficiency, this is not required, but it's what I did. Since this came with 14 gauge wire, I did cut them all short. And so the ground, this has a ground goes in there, short distance, and it has neutral going short distance to the neutral bar. And then the two hot legs, which are red and black, I cut those close to the base, probably too close. So if you're going to do it, I would recommend leaving a little bit of room so that your wire nuts will be over here where you're going to attach a thicker wire. In my case, I think I use something like 10 gauge, which is quite thick because I'm running it all the way over here. So that you don't want it too thick or too thin, certainly not thinner than 14 gauge. 14 gauge minimum if you add, preferably 12 gauge or 10 gauge if you're going to add length to this, or if you're going to shorten, cut out. What I did is I cut out some 14 gauge and then I added approximately 10 gauge. I think it's 10 gauge going through here. The reason I'm guessing 10 gauge because it's not labeled, but it's very thick, much thicker than 14 gauge, certainly thicker than 12 gauge. So I'm going to say 8 or 10. Anyway, and it doesn't matter much. You can use solid or twisted wire when you reconnect to this with a couple wire nuts. I'm not showing the inside because if you don't know what that looks like, then you shouldn't be doing this. So ideally, an electrician would do this, but I know electric enough to do this without an electrician. So much so that I actually installed this sub panel myself and did the wire runs through the attic. So if I can do that, I can certainly add this. This is pretty simple. Like I said, this consists of your basic 240 volt wires, which is ground, neutral, and two hots. The hots are black and red, and it doesn't matter the order, whether it's black here or black there or red there, as long as one is on each of those. I don't know how well this works because it's a new install. It has not been through an electrical storm. This is installed after the two hurricanes, Helene and Milton, or no, not Milton, but whatever the other one is. Or is it Milton? I don't know. I've been through so many hurricanes in the past 3 years, I can't keep track of them. Okay, yeah, I think it is Milton. So like I said, this is a more sophisticated system here. The way this one is designed is you cannot turn the generator on until the main is off. That's to protect mostly line workers, power company workers, to protect them from a power surge coming from the generator back, so it stops backfeeding into the system. It stops backfeeding into the power grid. The reason there are two lights on, one of them is for each leg, red and black or black and red. I just ran two red wires when I cut the black and red. It doesn't matter whether it's black or red, they both mean the same thing. You see, I have these professionally labeled or semi-professionally labeled, so I use a labeler like that. I'm not an Amazon. I am an Amazon affiliate, but I don't provide links. It's just extra work, and don't need extra income like that right now for the time it takes to deal with it. Because normally they will they will label over here what each thing is, but I like to put it directly on the label what it is, because when this cover's off, you can still see what it is, and it allows me to manage this better. This is not perfectly managed, because ideally I would have some of the higher use items down below and the lower use items up above. The dishwasher I never use, so it really should be way up on top. But sometimes if the wire length is not long enough to put this down here in its place, then that's why I would have the order not perfected. But for the lower amperage breakers, it's not that critical really at all. It doesn't really matter. In my opinion, once you get about 20 amps and below, it's really not going to matter. But 30 amps and above, I think it does matter. You want those down below. That's why you see the 240 volt stuff is on the lower half, pretty much. The reason I have some of these marked silver is those are the ones that get shut off when I lose power. I turn this off and turn on the generator this way. And currently I have a what I thought was a high-end generator. It's pretty beefy and new, brand new. I haven't even used it yet, but it has about 25% harmonic distortion, which is not good for the appliances, and that led me to installing the surge protector to help out some. I don't know how much that'll help, but the best thing for me to do is to get rid of this thing, this generator, and get a inverter generator. Also on this install, I mounted it to cinder block. This whole house is made out of concrete walls, and so I used a hammer drill to put in some receptors of the screws. I forgot drywall. I forgot what they're called. You know, these things here. So this is attached really firmly. So if I were to sell the house, the inspector is going to notice, wow, that's on there really good. And I'll tell you a secret, I did forget to put the metal ring nut in there, which would be an inspection fail if they looked, but there's so many wires covering that they're just not going to notice that. As long as this is attached to something really firm, that's going to be good enough. Even with this sub panel, I am way out of space. I cannot add another thing. I really need to upgrade. This is 200 amps. I need about a 300 or 400 amp, probably a 400 amp. But I'm not in a big hurry to do that. I think once I switch to all electric driving, then I'll do the conversion to 400 amps, 300 to 400 amps. But as long as I have a gas vehicle, it's going to be like this probably. Oh, and when I add solar panels to the house, I'm probably going to have to upgrade this. But one reason, I don't know if you want to hear this, but when I moved in, I had installed a central air conditioning system, a new one, and it uses a lot of space on here. It uses 2 legs, 2 spaces for the air handler, and another 2 spaces for the air conditioner. That'd be the condenser, yeah, air conditioner condenser, the outside unit. So if I didn't have those 2, I'd be okay. Let's see, I switched over to mini splits. Here, these 2 right here are mini splits, taking up 4 spaces also, 2 mini splits. And currently I'm just using this to cool the garage once in a while and to do air filtration, because it has a MERV 11 filtration system, which is really good. This does really good filtering for the whole house. So you can see here, I keep the garage open to the house so that the garage stays air conditioned without having to have an air conditioner in the garage, except this one. So this is auxiliary. If it gets really, like if I'm still here in August, I might run that once in a while in addition to having the door open, because it just, the mini splits just can't reach in here well enough if I want to do work in the garage. But with hindsight, I would not have paid $8,000 to put in a replacement new central air system, largely because I want this space. And for $8,000, I could have done the whole house with mini splits, which are far superior. So because electronics are extremely expensive, I would recommend a whole house surge protector. And again, those are insufficient. Those power strips, they say something like protects 1,200 joules and has a $1 million protection warranty, or it's all bogus, pretty much. They're not gonna ever pay you a dime. If in the video, I don't know if you see one of these lights go out, that's the flicker rate. That's a false reading on the video recording. These are always solid, because I noticed when I'm looking through my camera lens, it's showing this one out once in a while when it really isn't. It's just the flicker rate. Those can be mounted anywhere along the panel, and it is outdoor rated. But if you do mount it outside, you may want to have a seal in between this and this. In my case, it's mounted inside. It does have, what do they call it? Tinned. It has coated copper, so it's silver, and that's marine grade. So the wire that comes with it is marine grade. She was a good helper. Hey, Tidy, do you want to say hi to the world? Have you been a good girl? Have you been a good girl? Do you want to see what's... Yes, you're a good guard dog, aren't you? You're going to go guard this whole place. Yes, you're my guard dog. Good girl. There's the air conditioner condenser that uses 2 spaces. Yeah, I just really wish I didn't buy this thing. I'd rather have this spot available for something else. For the generators, I started out with 30 amp and then I upgraded to 50 instead of, for some reason, I can't remember why I didn't convert this to 50, just take it out. Maybe because I already have it and couldn't return it, so I just added the 50. So I have a choice between 30 and 50. That is 30 and 50 or 50 amps. So the way this would work is the generator cord would attach in here and run along here, and the generator would sit probably right about there with the exhaust facing that way and run. And if it's raining, then I'll put the generator here with the exhaust facing away from the building. Oh, I almost forgot to mention, you're going to need to buy a 50 amp breaker if you get this model. I think some cheaper models may get by with a smaller breaker. This one, actually, when I bought it, I didn't know I even had to have a breaker. I was so inexperienced with whole house surge protection, I didn't even know it needed a breaker. So I hooked it up to a 30 amp breaker instead of this one until I got this one ordered and delivered. So I tested it with 30 amp, and both lights stayed on the whole time, no problem. So you could have 30 amp, it'll blow easier and won't protect as well, I think, is how that would work. To avoid Chinese knockoffs, you can see that label there would be a good indicator that it's a real thing. This is, I believe, solid state, so there are no moving parts in here. It doesn't make any noise, and it doesn't get hot. It's not warm or anything like that. Oh, here are the original wires that I cut off from it that it comes with. The ground, neutral, hot, and hot. So it has 4 wires. That's what they look like. They are 14 gauge. And so the ground is shortened this much. No, neutral is what I had in my hand. This is ground was shortened that much. Neutral was shortened about the same length. The hots were actually lengthened a couple inches, but with a much thicker gauge wire. And that's so that I could run it all the way through this other side here. Instead of, in order to get it in this spot, that would have to be there or there. Either way, this was only maybe an inch shorter distance, so I went ahead and put it there. So, to get it to this breaker. That's not very long. So at 10 gauge versus 14, that's probably even better than the factory length of the 14 gauge. One thing to be aware of in your area, you might want to check with the city if you're in the city limits to see if you have to get a permit to put one of those in. Okay, that's about all I can think of. It's time to play with the puppies. Leave some comments and all that other good stuff.